that for my research topic, I'm going to look at the comparison between apartments in Melbourne and apartments in Hong Kong. I've read through the newspapers and heard on radio a couple of things about this, and so this is something I want to explore a little bit more as my theme. So the first place I'm going to go is to one of my search engines, and so I'm going to use Google because that's what I'm used to using. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in Melbourne apartments, if I can spell. Oops. But the next part I also want to do is not actually look at things for sale or for rent, but I want to see what they say about the comparison between Melbourne apartments and Hong Kong. So I've still got over 13.4 million results, which I don't actually want to look at so many. But, and there's a number of ways of doing some keyword searches, which I'll take you through in the following weeks. But also to have a look at, there's a couple of things here. So there's hotels and serviced apartments in Hong Kong. Not yet. But here's something here, Melbourne allowing high-rise development rates. So that's something that might be an interesting place to start. So what I'm doing at this stage is having a look at a whole range of articles, but also trying to find ones that will also give me some keyword searches. So with my keyword search, I'm looking at recurring debates, I'm looking at the type of people who are involved in the debates, and that will then lead me on to other things like looking at journal articles and things like that. Okay, so let's start here with Melbourne allowing high-rise development. So this is the area that I want to go in. So this is the 9th of February, so it's this year, so it's recent. And what this is talking about is there's been a report that has been written by Leanne Hoddle as part of her Churchill Fellowship. And so what she is talking about is about the high density growth and the effect that that has on the city. So this is really discussing the report that she's put together. So the report is probably something that I should have a look at. And I should also have a look at, so my keyword search would be Leanne Hoddle. Also Melbourne City Council is worth having a look at and what policies they might have. And as I go through the article, we've also got the City Council's planning chairman, Ken Ong, so I can have a look at things that he might have said. Okay, so South Bank development crazy and a mistake. Okay, so the South Bank is on the south side of the river near Flinders Street Station, and so there's a discussion about some of the things that have happened there. And it has a discussion about the type of building densities. So I can come back to these later, but building density is probably something that I could add to my keyword search. And it has comparisons with New York, so that's rather good. Okay, then it has the government policy. Government from Pincher, Steve Herbert, the balance, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the other thing that is good with this particular article is it has other things that are more things on the story, and then from other sites. So we have here urban planners concerned over Melbourne's high-rise. So if I want to have a listen to the discussion, I can click here, or I can go to another article. So Melbourne's hyperdense skyscrapers would never be allowed in other cities. Okay, so this sounds like an interesting article too. Okay, so again, from this year, and okay, so Clay Lucas has written this, and we have a video. So we can have a look at this. Again, we have Leanne Hoddle, and we can have a look at the video if we want to. Who else is here? Gary Lawrence. Okay, so from the ACOM, and so he makes a comment, so I can have a look at what Gary Lawrence has said in other places. It gives me some numbers of buildings, and this is, okay, so Ms. Hoddle. Okay, so the other thing that's worth having a look at is the former planning minister, Matthew Guy, because that also goes through there were a number of things that happened under his watch that have impacted on the city. So he would be another key search person to look at. Okay, here's some interesting statistics that I might be able to use. And so we can have a look at how many people live in the city, what the density is, comparisons with New York and Hong Kong. So they might be really useful things to use in my research. Okay, let's go back to my search. Okay, so hyperdense skyscrapers. Okay, this is the one that I looked at. Melbourne's tiny flats. And this is where I can start to think about where my research is going. I'll just turn off my ghostery. So I can talk about the density and the amount of housing, or I can have a look at the tiny flats. So in this case, we've got super dense towers. So yes, they're the same type of thing, and maybe I can have a look at, well, which area am I going to look at? Okay, so Melbourne City Council is again mentioned. Okay, here's another person too who is a useful person to have a look at. So Professor Michael Buxton is at RMIT Planning, and so he has a lot to say about the density of the city. And I've got the planning chairman, Ken Ong, again. The Hoddle grid, so I can have a look at what that means. And okay, so that's that fine. So I've got a few more things. Okay, so this is last year, so this is before the Hoddle report came out. So then I can go back through my list and start to have a look at, so what types of things, these are always fun to have a look at, tiny apartments. So yeah, this is probably a good place to start. I can start trawling through, and so we've got another one, Melbourne's new apartments are getting smaller. So this is Oliver Hume that we had in one of our previous articles. So we can have a look at what they've had to say. And it also goes back to the Financial Review and has reports there. So that would be also a useful thing. The what is suggested by the Office of the Victorian Government Architect, so I can have a look there. So as we go through, each of these are starting to give me more clues as to where I might find more information. But as more of these as there are more hits, I can also find out which ones are becoming more relevant. So we go through again, the former Planning Minister Matthew Guy, the State Architect Geoffrey London. So, okay, so he's resigned, so I need to find out who's taken his place. Again, we have Leanne Hoddle and the things that she's discussed. So it's becoming more and more important that I have a look at her work. Okay, so this is sort of a start as to how you might start to approach your topic through Google Scholar. Once you start having keyword searches, then you can start having a look for other articles as well.